Be very nice to the man who has the microphone. He wields an unreal amount of power. Now, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is D.W. Groethe, and I'm hosting this session of the Badger Clark poems. I have a couple announcements to make, I'd like to make. One, cell phones. Turn them to off, or airport, or airplane, or whatever. That'd be cool. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank, once again, you've probably heard it 1,000 times, but these people deserve 1,000-fold phrases, and that's all the volunteers who have helped put this together. Aren't they wonderful, or what? Yeah. And of course, I'd like to thank the people of Western Folklife Center, all the sponsors that help support that. I would like to make special mentions of cowboypoetry.com and the Waddie, because when they found out I was doing this, they shipped all sorts of information to me, a heck of a library, and they deserve big kudos. And I'd like to dedicate this show, and I know all of us would, to the memory and the generosity of George Gunn III. Okay, now originally, the folks at Elko at the Folklife Center called me last May or something and asked me if I'd help them curate this show, or a show, they said. And if any of you caught last year, Wallie's, the legendary Wallace McRae, his show, which was just a grand show. It was all the classics, you know, by some of these people were on that. I was just like, this was wonderful. It's just, so I go back and I tell Wally, I go, you got to do this again. He says, I'm not doing this again. I don't blame him. I know exactly what he feels like. Anyway, they called me up and they said, what would you like to do? And I said, you know what we ought to do is a series by the masters. You know, Cascadden, Omar Barker, and Badger Clark. And they said, oh, that'd be all right. Who do you want to pick? And I said, well, Badger Clark is one of my favorites. And he's also from my country up there. I'm from West River country. I'll leave it at that. Ta-da. We know that's Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming. The best parts. Okay. Anyway, so they called me up, and then I started putting things together. I told them, I said, send me a list of names of all the reciters I can use, because I knew it was going to take a large number. We have 14 people. You don't see that very often here. And I wrote out, a thing about Badger Clark and when he was born and all the things he did in his life and all this other stuff, and I got it all printed up, and it was like double-spaced and in the large letters because I got 63-year-old eyes. And I got done and I thought, this is starting to look like a college class. So I said, the heck with it. I threw it all away, and I've been just scattering notes because that's the way it should be. I'll give you some basics on those of you who aren't real familiar with him. He was born in 1883 in Iowa. His daddy was a Methodist minister. He ended up in 1905 getting a diagnosis of TB. I mean, it wasn't a serious one, but the doctor told him go south. So he ends up in Arizona. And he written some poetry before then, but he wrote one called Riding, sent it to his mother. She sent it in to a magazine. They printed it and sent Badger a check for $10. And it don't take a real stupid cowboy to figure out this is a nice way to make money. But while he was down there, really when he wrote a lot of his truly classic material, and you'll hear a lot of it tonight. Well, I was going to say about these people he passed away in the 50s, 57, I believe. And really, if you want to look him up, do it. what you need to do is find copies of Sun and Saddle Leather and Grass-Grown Trails. Those two books are just classic. And most of these poems you will hear tonight came out of those two books. Okay, so when I got the list, I just started at the top. I didn't pick favorite names or anything like that because they're all my favorites anyway. And I said, pick a poem, whatever poem is your favorite, whatever poem you would really like to do in this after I explained what it was, and it'll be yours. And then I'll go to the next one. I say you can pick any poem except this one, because Joel Nelson picked this one, so it's his. Nobody ever doubled up. Nobody picked the classics. I mean, the ones you'd think about, you'd think riding and Boastful Bill, and A Cowboy's Prayer. And they all picked what they wanted, and it was actually fairly simple. And it just finally came down, and I said, whatever's left over, then I'd pick one out of it. And I'm going to be doing A Cowboy's Prayer. And I guess, I'm looking at my thing here. You can tell I do this for a living. Okay. Oh, and it's the image of it all. I didn't want to have 14 people out here. It just didn't make sense, and to be confusing walking back and forth. So one night when I was just sitting around thinking, I thought, if you think back on the prairie, back on the plains, when they had the cattle drive, to feel you near tonight in this dim, quiet starlight on the plains. I thank you, Lord, that I am placed so well, that you have made my freedom so complete, that I am no slave to whistle, clock, or bell, nor weak-eyed prisoner of wall and street. Just let me live my life as I've begun, and give me work that's open to the sky. Make me a partner of the wind and sun, and I won't ask a life that's soft or high. Let me be easy on the man that's down. Let me be generous and square with all, as honest as the house between my knees, clean as the wind that blows behind the reins, free as a hawk that circles down the breeze. Forgive me, Lord, if sometimes I forget. You know about the reasons that are hid. You understand the things that gall and fret. You know me better than my mother did. Just keep an eye on all that's done and said, and write me sometimes when I turn aside, and guide me on the long, dim trail ahead that stretches upward toward the great divide. Thank you. Paul Zarziski from Great Falls, Randy Rieman from Dillon, Montana.
Good evening. We're all going to tell you tonight why we chose the poem we chose and what it is. And Paul and I, being adopted sons of Montana, are one of our mentors, and we feel like we are very much protégés from the late, great Tom Eaton, one of the finest reciters of cowboy poetry ever. This is a poem that Tom really loved. It's a poem he did well, not as well as Paul and I, because it's one of the great Western poems written in two voices, Boastful Bill. Are you ready, Boastful? At a roundup on the Healy one sweet morning long ago, 10 of us was throwed right freely by this hoss from Idaho, and we thought he'd go a-begging for a man to break his pride until a-hitching up one leg and Boastful Bill cut loose and cried,
I'm an ornery proposition for to hurt. I fulfill my earthly mission with a quirt. I can ride the highest flivver, from the Gulf to Powder River, and I'll break this thing as easy as I flirt.
And he does flirt. So Bill climbed the Northern Fury, and they mangled up the air until a native of Missouri would have owned his brag was fair. Though the plunges kept him reeling, and the wind that flopped his shirt loud above that hoss a squealing, we could hear our friend assert,
I'm the one to take such rakings as a joke. Someone hand me up the makings of a smoke. If you think my fame needs brightening, well, I'll rope a streak of lightning, and I'll cinch it up and spur it till it's broke.
Then one caper of repulsion broke that hosse's back in two. Cinches snapped in the convulsion. Skyward man and saddle flew, upward sailing, never lagging, as we watched him through our tears until his last thin bit of bragging come a-dropping to our ears.
If you've ever watched my habits very close, you would know I've broke such rabbits by the gross. I have kept my talent hiding. I'm too good for earthly riding, and I'm off to bust the lightnings. Adios.
Years have passed since that ascension. Boastful Bill ain't never lit. So we reckon he's a-wrenching some celestial outlaw's bit, and when the night rain beats our slickers and the wind is stiff and stout, when the lightning flares and flickers, we can sometimes hear him shout,
I'm a bronco twisting wonder on the fly. I'm the riding son of thunder in the sky. Hi, you earthlings, shut your windows while we're ripping clouds to flinders. If this blue-eyed darling kicks at you, you die.
Stardust on his chaps and saddles, scornful still the jar and jolt. He'll come back someday astraddle of a bald-faced thunderbolt. And that thin-skinned generation on that dim and distant day sure will stare with admiration when they hear old Boastful say,
I was first, as old rawhiders all confessed. Now I'm last of all rough riders, still the best. Huh, you soft and dainty floaters with your aeroplanes and motors. Huh, are you the great-grandchildren of the West?
Charles Badger Clark.
From Alpine, Texas, Kelley Nowell.
Well, way back when I was a kid at camp in summer, I learned a song around the campfire that I really liked, and they were calling it Desert Silvery Blue or something like that. So it was many years later that while I was thumbing through my copy of Sun and Saddle Leather, that I found the poem that song had come from. This is Badger Clark's A Roundup Lullaby. Desert blue and silver in the still moonshine, Desert blue and silver in the still moonshine, coyote yapping lazy on the hill. Sleepy winks of lightning down the far skyline. Time for milling cattle to be still. So now the lightning's far away. The coyote's nothing scary. He's singing to his dearie. Hee-yah, tamala-alla-day. Settle down, you cattle, till the morning. Nothing out the hazy range that you folks need. Nothing we can see to take your eye. Still we gotta watch you or you'll all stampede, plunging down some royal bank to die. So now, for still the shadows stay, the moon is slow and steady, the sun comes when he's ready. Hee-yah, tamala-alla-day. No use running out to meet the morning. Cows and men are foolish when the light grows dim, dreaming of a land too far to see. There you dream is waving grass and streams that brim, and it often seems the same to me. So holiday, but we got to make it till the morning. Always seeing way off dreams of silver blue, always feeling thorns that stab and sting. Yet stampeding never made a dream come true. So I'll ride around myself and sing. So now a man has got to stay, a liking or a hating, but working on and waiting. Hee-yah, tomorrow holiday. All of us are waiting for the morning.
From Thunderhawk, South Dakota, Elizabeth Ebert.
The reason that I picked this poem is because some 80 plus years ago, my mother used to say this poem every time a storm came up. And I also say it because Thunderhawk is my hometown. It's the Medicine Man. The trail is long to the bison herd, and the prairie rotten with rain. And look, the wings of the thunderbird blacken the hills again. A medicine man the gods may balk. Go fight for us with the Thunderhawk. The medicine man flung out his arms. I'm weary of woman talk, of cook-fire witching and childish charms. I'll fight you, the Thunderhawk. So he took his arrows and climbed the butte, while the warriors watched him, scared and mute. A wind from the wings began to blow, and arrows of rain to shoot. The medicine man raised high his bow, standing alone on the butte, and the day went dark to the cowering band as the arrow flew from his steady hand. For the Thunderhawk swooped down to fight, and who in his way could stand? The flash of his eye was blinding bright, and his wing clap stunned the land. The braves yelled terror and loosed the rain and scattered far on the drowning plain. So, after the Thunderhawk swept by, they found him scorched and slain. Yet, fighting with gods, who fears to die? He smiled with a slight disdain. That smile was glory to all his clan, but none dared touch the medicine man.
I'll help you out. She's great. From Bellevue, Colorado, Gary McMahan.
I picked this poem because Badger Clark loved music, as evidenced by several of the songs that he's written. He not only could write poetry, he could also write the lyrics. And so this is called The Piano Down at Red's, and I would like to have my accompanist start the deal. Maestro, please. 'Twas a hole called Red Saloon in Lavaca town. 'Twas an old piano there, blistered and marred and brown, and a man more battered still, taking drinks for fees, played all night from memory on the yellow keys. While the glasses clinked and clashed on the sloppy bar, that piano's dreamy voice took you out and far, riding old forgotten trails underneath the moon, till you heard a drunken yell back in Red Saloon. Whirl of wheels and slap of cards, talk of loss and gain, mixed with hum of honeybees down a sunny lane. Glimpses of your mother's face, touch of girlish lips, often made you lose your count as you stacked your chips. Scuffling feet and thud of fists, curses hot as fire. Still the music sang of love and longing, lost desire. Dreams that never could have been, joys that couldn't stay, while a man upon the floor wiped the blood away. Then some way it followed you and slept upon your breast, trailed you out across the range and never let you rest. And for days and days you'd hum just one scrap of tune. Funny place for music though, back in Red Saloon. Nice, buddy, we got through it.
Well, that's a first and a last. Okay. I almost said something screwy up here, and I know what had come out of your mouth, so it's not good. All right, that was fun. Next up, from Prescott, Arizona, Gail Steiger.
Well, I picked Horseback Men, primarily because I think Mr. Clark, kind of like the Western Folklife Center, when he thought of horseback men, thought about men from all over the world and not just from our country. And also because I think, like me, he was kind of skeptical about the notion that all so-called progress was a good thing. And finally, because I think at the end of this poem, he kind of foretold the advent of the cowboy poetry gathering. Horseback men were the freest men from the days of the Big Ice Pack, when they first crawled out of their musty den and followed the horse's track. The caveman crouched in the dark and died, but his son found out that the world was wide when he climbed on a horse's back. Horseback men, oh, horseback men, bow-legged, brave old crew. Here's to your kin while the free stars spin. Cowpuncher, Cossack, Bedouin, Gaucho, Mongol, and Sioux. The bold Goth spurred into lazy Rome. Great Genghis loped with his force. Or a Westerner fought for his wide new home, astride of a bronc, of course. New land, new freedom, or just the deuce. Whenever the spirit of man broke loose.
All right. Dave Stamey, Orange Grove, California.
Charles Badger Clark was a songwriter, and I know because I've been to the Badger Hole in South Dakota and I've seen the guitar. It is there, still. And like all great songwriters, he drew from his own life. When he was a young man, he was plagued with the bad case of asthma, and it was feared for a time that it might be the dreaded consumption. And as was the habit in those days, the treatment for that was go to a drier climate. So they sent him down to a little ranch near Sierra Vista, Arizona, very, very near the Mexican border, where he spent a number of years down there. And I have to believe, just from the depth of feeling in this particular song, there's some truth and some autobiographical facts in the border affair. Spanish is the loving tongue, soft as silver, light as spray. There was a girl I had learned it from, living down the Norway. I don't look much like a lover, still I say her love words over, mostly when I'm all alone. Mi amor, mi corazón. There were nights when I would ride, she would listen for my spurs, swing that big door open wide, raise those laughing eyes of brown. Oh, how my heart would near stop beating when I hear her tender greeting, whispered low for me alone. Mi amor, mi corazón. Moonlight on the patio, oh, senora nodding near, me and marijuana talking low, so her madre, she couldn't hear. Oh, how those hours would get to flying. Pretty soon I hear her crying. Please don't leave me all alone. Mi amor, mi corazón. And one night I had to fly. I got into a foolish gambling fight. And I had to say a swift goodbye. In that black, unlucky night. Traveling north, her words kept ringing. With every hoofbeat, I could hear her singing. Please don't leave me all alone, mi amor, mi corazón. I ain't never seen her since that night. I can't cross the line, you know. She was Mexican and I was white. Like as not, it's better so. Yet I've always sort of missed her since that very last night that I kissed her. I broke her heart, but I lost my own. Adios, mi corazón.
All right. Joel Nelson from Alpine, Texas.
Dave Stamey, that was magic. Thank you. If you pick up an early enough copy of Sun and Saddle Leather, you'll see that Badger Clark made this dedication. To my father, who in his long life was never conscious of a man's rough exterior or unconscious of his smallest virtue. Badger Clark grew up or wrote during a time when horseback travel and horse-drawn vehicles were giving way to internal combustion engines, and electricity was coming into common use. Big, savage children from the breast. But in the circle of my glow you sit tonight, a haughty guest, for far beyond their artless day your lofty trail has stretched away. So wise, but still the child is in your eyes. Your fathers feared the club and claw. Their days were full of fight and flight. Behind you stands your mighty law to guard your lonely sleep at night. Or if some lawless brute runs free, a rifle gleams across your knee. So strong, so wise, but still the fear is in your eyes. They filled their little tents with spoil, then vaguely longed for greater things. Your shining cities spurn the soil, and through your valley plenty sings. You span the seas they endless deemed, and rule a world they never dreamed. So great, so wise, but still the longing in your eyes. They made them gods of flood and fire. With simple awe they watched the stars. You bend all powers to your desire. The river gods must draw your cars. The grudging fire gods drive your fleets, and lightning slaves about your streets. So proud, so wise, but still the wonder in your eyes. They dreamed a God might in them dwell, who lived beyond the silenced heart. You know your mortal self so well, a wondrous thing in every part, but earthbound as this gaunt mesquite. or firelit dust about your feet. So hard, so wise, but still the God is in your eyes. Poor little primal thing am I, great stranger, yet I mock your lore. Your thickest volumes often lie, and these still stars could tell you more. The wind that sighs across the sand, or I, but could you understand? So wise, a puzzled child within your eyes.
Dillon, Montana, once more, Randy Rieman.
If you're not getting the hint by now, you can see that we have a great appreciation for Badger Clark. Very few writers have written with the scope and the depth that he has offered. This poem I'd like to do is called The Married Man. Badger Clark was a bachelor his whole life, but he understood this conflict. There's an old pard of mine, he sits by his door and he watches the evening skies. He has sat there 1,000 evenings before, and I reckon he will till he dies. Poor feller. I reckon he will till he dies, and he'll hear through the dim, quiet air far cattle that call and crickets that cheep, and his wife a-singing their baby to sleep in the creak of her rockabye chair. Once we used to camp when the last light would fail, and the east wasn't white when we'd start. But now my friend's deaf to the call of the trail and the song of the restless heart. Poor feller. The song of the restless heart that you hear in the wind from the dawn. He's left it with all the good free-footed things for a slow little song that a tired woman sings in a smoke when his dry day is gone. I've rode in and told him of lands that were strange where I drifted from glory to dread, and he'd tell me the news of his little old range and the cute things his kid had said. Poor feller. The cute things his kid had said, and the way 6-year Billy could ride. And the dark would creep in from the gray chaparral, and the woman would hum, and I'd pity my pal, for I thought of him like he had died. Oh, he rides in old circles, looks at old sights. His life is as flat as a pond. He loves the old skyline he watches of nights, but he don't seem to care for beyond. No, he don't seem to care for beyond, nor the room he could find there for joy. Ain't you never uneasy, says I one day. He just smiled at me in a pitying way while he braided a quirt for his boy. He preaches that I ought to fold up my wings, that even wild geese find a nest, that women and a woman, they're different things, and a saddle nap isn't a rest. Always more for the shade and the rest, and less for the wind and the fight. Yet out in strange hills when the blue shadows rise, and I'm tired from the wind and the sun in my eyes, I wonder sometimes if he's right. Oh, I've courted the wind, and I followed her free from the snows that the low stars have kissed to the heave and the dip of the wavy old sea. But I reckon there's something I've missed. Poor feller. I reckon there's something I've missed. And maybe it's more than I've won. Just a door that's my own when the blue shadows creep, and my wife singing our baby to sleep when I'm tired from the wind and the sun.
Connor, Montana, Wylie Gustafson.
I can't help but think how Badger Clark is smiling down right now on this wonderful evening. These men and women who have carefully taken his words into the next generations and carried them so preciously and gently to a night like tonight. And greatness is like that. To me, Badger is the Shakespeare of the American West, and he will last forever because his words mean so much. And as Randy indicated, he was a bachelor all his life, but I know for a fact that he knew love and he knew it deeply. Perhaps it was the brown-eyed beauty from Mexico whose heart he broke. Cut loose 100 rivers, roaring across my trail. Snakes may famish and fry. I crossed that desert to her. Murder my sleep with revel, make me ride through the bogs, knee to knee with the devil, just ahead of the dogs. I harrow the Badlands level, I teach the tigers to purr. Saints may wallow and lie, but I go clean-hearted to her. Saints may wallow and lie, but I go clean-hearted to her, to her, to her.
This is a good show, isn't it? I love it. These people are wonderful. From Clear Creek Canyon in Utah, as if there really is such a place, Jerry Rooks.
Wow. Wylie's got such a way with taking these poems and putting his personal musical twist on them. He takes on poems that nobody else would dare try to put to music. Ain't he great? Yeah. Well, I guess I ought to tell you how grateful I am to DW for letting me be a part of this deal tonight. I was so tickled he gave me a call and he said, just pick one. And I said, well, how about the free wind? And he said, terrific. But to tell you why, I mean, shucks, it's a partial life story, for crying out loud. I don't remember contracting with Badger Clark to write my biography, but he did. It's a little out of order. You know, a little out of sequence, and it's out of gender, but still mine, darn it. My poem. I never do mind reciting out of gender poetry. A lot of the gals will change the wording to turn it back around the other way, but look at all the men that learned Alaska from their grandma, you know, so I'll just keep doing them the way they were written. The free wind. I went and I worked in a dripping mine amongst the rock and the oozing wood, for the dark seemed lit by a dollar sign, and they told me money was good. So I jumped and sweat for a flat-foot boss till my pockets bulged with pay. But my heart, it fought like a lead bronc horse till I flung my drill away. And the wind, the good free wind, she sang from the pine divide that the sky was blue and the young years few, and the world was big and wide. From the poor bare hills all gashed with scars, I rode till the range was crossed. Then I watched the glint of sunset stars and my camp sparks glinting to the stars, and I laughed at the pay I'd lost. I went and I walked in the city way, down a glittering canyon street, for 1,000 lights seemed good and gay, and they said life there was sweet. And the women laughed as the nights reeled by and the wine ran red and gold. But their laugh was a starved wolf's hunting cry, and their eyes were hard and old. But the wind, the clean, free wind, she sang, she laughed through the April rain. Come out and live on the wine I give and the smell of the greening plain. Well, I looked back once to the smoky towers where my face had bleached so pale. Then I loped through the lash of the driving showers to the uncut sod and the prairie flowers and the old wide life of the trail. I went and I camped in the valley trees where the thick leaves whispered, rest. For love lived there amongst the honeybees, and they told me love was best. Their twilight lanes were cool and dim, and the orchards pink with May. But my eyes laid rise to the valley's rim where the deserts stretched away. And the wind, the wild free wind, she called from the web loved spun to the unbought sand of the lone trail land and the sweet hot kiss of the sun. Oh, I looked back twice to the valley lass. Then I set my spurs and sung, for the morning wind was in the grass. And the sunshine high above the pass, and my horse and me was young.
All right. Brooksy. Dick Gibford from Cayama, California.
Mogollon Rim down in Arizona, where this poem was fashioned by Badger Clark. It's a big old rocky piece of country. And I
Was cowboying up here in Elko County years ago, and a kid on the outfit roped a lion and brought him in, throwed across his guillons among the mountain tops. A lion cleaned a yearling's bones and licked his thankful chops. When who should ride upon the scene, a-tripping down the slope, but High-Chin Bob with fearsome pride and a maverick hungry rope. Oh, glory be to me, says he, and fame's unfading flowers. I ride my best top hoss today, all meddling hands are far away. I'm top roper on the Lazy J, hi kitty cat, you're ours. Well, the lion licked his paws so brown, and he dreamed sweet dreams of veal. But then that circling loop came down and lashed him round his meal. The lion yowled quick fury to the world, and all the hills yelled back. The top hoss gave a snort and whirled, and Bob caught up his slack. Oh, glory be to me, says he, we've hit the glory trail. No human being, as I have read, durst rope a raging lion's head, nor nary one could drag one dead, till we told the tale. Way high up in the muggy owns, the top hoss done his best, through whipping brush and rattling stone, from canyon floor to crest. But whenever Bob turns in hope, the limp remained to find, a red-eyed lion belly roped, but healthy loped behind. Oh, glory be to me, says he, this glory trail is rough, but never till my judgment morn shall I take this dally from my horn, for never any hero born was stooped to holler enough. 3 sons had rode their circles home beyond the desert's rim, and they turned their star herds out to roam the ranges high and dim. Yet up and down and round and cross Bob pounded weak and wan. Pride still glued him to his hoss, and glory drove him on. Oh, glory be to me, sighs he can't be drugged to death. Now I know beyond a doubt all them heroes I have read about, they was only fools that stuck it out till end of mortal breath. Way high up in the Mogollons, the prospector man did swear that moonbeams melted down his bones and hoisted up his hair. A ribby cow horse thundered by, a lion trailed along, a rider gaunt but chin on high yelled out this crazy song. Oh, glory be to me, says he, and to my noble noose. Partner, tell your friends below I took a rampant dream in tow, and if I never lay him low, I'll never turn him loose.
Dick Gibford. All right. From Hyco, Texas, Don Edwards.
Badger Clark's poetry was a big part of my repertoire, even in the early days before he became fashion, and I've always admired him. And one of the reasons behind that his poetry was so melodic was that he was a musician. And in fact, I had the chance to pick up his guitar one time up at the Badger Hole. Look, he couldn't play it because the strings was 4 inches off the neck. And laying there all warped, and I thought they'd better do something with it to preserve it, or it wouldn't be nothing after a while. But anyway, I've always revered his poetry, and his music was his poetry was so melodic that the majority of it had been put to music at one time or another. And wherever they get these tunes from, you know, I just kind of added on my own little twist to it, and that's about the way it went. I rode across the valley range I had not seen for years. The trail was all so sport and strange that it nearly fetched the tears. I had to let 10 fences down, the fussy lanes ran wrong. Each new line would make me frown and hum this morning song. Hear 'em stretching of the wire. Why, the Nesta brand is on the land. I reckon I'll retire. Progress toots its brassy horn. It makes its motor buzz. I thanks the Lord I wasn't born no later than I was. It was good to live when all the sod, without no fence nor fuss, belonged in partnership with God, nature, and to us. And where skylines bound from east to west, room to go and come, I loved my fellow man the best when he was scattered some. Further and further flings the wire. Why, there's hardly play to step away. Call a man a liar. And their house has locks on every door. Their land is in a crate. And these ain't the plains of God no more. It's only real estate. So when my old soul hunts range and rest beyond the last divide, plant me in some stretch of west, sunny, lone, and wide, and let cattle rub my tombstone round, let coyotes mourn their kin, and let horses come and paw the mound, but don't you fence it in. Closer and closer crawls the wire, and to crowd and pinch another inch, it's all their heart's desire. The world is overstocked with men, and some will see the day when each must keep his little pen, but I'll be far away. And now they've penned the land with wire, and they figure fence and copper cents where we laughed around the fire. Progress toots its brassy horn, makes its motor buzz, and I just thanks the Lord I wasn't born no later than I was.
The desert sun a-blazing on 100 miles of range, just riding, a-riding. Mountains, desert rippling in the sun. Mountains blue along the skyline. I don't envy anyone when I'm riding. When my feet is in the stirrups and my hoss is on the bust with his hooves a flashing lightin' from a cloud of golden dust, and the bawling of the cattle is a-coming down the wind, then a finer life than riding would be mighty hard to find. Just riding. Stirring, splitting long cracks through the air, stirring up a baby cyclone, ripping up the prickly pear as I'm riding. I don't need no art exhibits when the sunset does her best, painting
everlasting glory on the mountains to the west, and your Opry looks so foolish when your nightbird starts to sing, and the desert silver mounted by the touches of the moon, just riding, a-riding. Who can envy kings or czars when the coyotes down the valleys are singing to the stars if he's riding? When my earthly trail is ended and my final bacon curled and the last great roundup's finished at the home ranch of the world, I don't want no harps nor halos, robes nor other dressed up things. Let me ride the starry ranges on a pinto hoss with wings, just riding, a-riding. Nothing I'd like half so well as a rounding up some sinners that had wandered out of hell if I'm riding.
We'd like to thank you all for spending a little time this evening around the campfire with Badger Clark. All right. Thank you very much. You've been a wonderful audience and a wonderful